We really have a very unified party, other than a very small group of people that frankly lost. And we have a very unified party. You saw that the other night with the love in the room and the enthusiasm in the room. The enthusiasm. There are people that say they have never seen anything like what was going on in that room, especially Thursday night.
Donald Trump on NBC's Meet the Press yesterday with Chuck Todd. Mr. Trump says the party, well, you just heard him say, the party's essentially unified. But you may recall that during the primaries, when Ted Cruz decided to suspend his campaign, several Republicans remained vociferous in their protest of Mr. Trump as the eventual nominee. Among them, our friend Steve Deace, who posted a particular photo back in those days that we're going to take a look at. And it is a change of affiliation, going to a no-party preference there in Iowa. But Trump is the nominee, and a social conservative, Mike Pence, is now his running mate. Will previous supporters of Ted Cruz abandon the Never Trump movement and become November Trumpers? Well, let's check in with our good friend Steve Deace, who joins us via Skype as he prepares for his nationally syndicated radio show. Of course, Steve is also the author of a great book, A Nefarious Plot. You got to check that out. I enjoyed it very much. Well, all plotting aside, Steve, we appreciate your time. And, you know, we go back to last week, and there was Ted, articulate, started out really great. And, well, let's just listen to some of what he said on the convention floor last week.
If you love our country and love your children as much as I know that you do, stand and speak and vote your conscience. Vote for candidates up and down the ticket who you trust to defend our freedom and to be faithful to the Constitution.
Now, Steve, later that night, former Speaker Newt Gingrich came out and said, well, if you're going to vote your conscience and be true to the Constitution, it ain't voting for Hillary. I guess my question is this, Steve. Are you in a position now to possibly back Donald Trump?
No, I don't think Donald Trump has the character, values, maturity to be president. I think the act he pulled on a Friday morning after a speech that he attempted to unify the party, and he went out there the next morning and spent the whole morning rehashing why National Enquirer hasn't won Pulitzers and JFK conspiracy theories. I mean, I think that he is what he is. I do agree with Donald that I do think the Republican Party is unified. I just think it's a smaller party. And I think that the fact that we saw people booing someone telling them to vote their conscience and for the Constitution, you know, JD, that can only be an insult to people if indeed you're admitting that your guy is a violation of conscience and doesn't defend the Constitution. And I'll close with this. There's an old saying down in the South, when you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, the one that yelps is the one you hit.
Or as my old press secretary from the hollers of Kentucky said, a hit dog hollers. They have another point of view on that. But let me just ask you one other thing. Because Mike Pence has enjoyed a reputation as a strong social conservative, even the inclusion of Governor Pence on the ticket is not enough to persuade you to vote for the Republican ticket in November.
You know, it's funny, you mentioned my book, A Nefarious Plot. I finished the manuscript well over a year ago, and one of the things I talked about when the demon general from hell, Lord Nefarious, the fictional character I created who wrote the book, he talks about what happened in Indiana when its religious freedom bill was being debated, and when the Republican governor there not only backed down, but ended up writing legislation that actually targeted believers for their faith, as Beckett Fund and Heritage Foundation and Family Research Council all pointed out at the time. He said that was sort of his last confirmation that the bad guys has won. And now here we are a year and a half after I wrote that, and he's the vice presidential nominee. So if anything, Pence's fake social conservatism probably solidified my position, if nothing else.
All right, let me just go back to one thing you mentioned, and you were taking issue with those who booed after Senator Cruz said, vote your conscience. Another interpretation of that was it really wasn't an appeal to conscience. It's been the rallying cry of those who were part of the Never Trumpers, and it was a reaction to that, not suggesting a deficiency of conscience. And that's why there was that reception on the floor. But you're not buying that.
No, because I think, imagine if Donald Trump had opened up his speech the very next night and said, tonight, I'm going to convince you to vote your conscience and vote for me in November. Why not own that? Why not take that back? I mean, why would you allow someone to own the premise that a vote for you is a violation of conscience when you can turn that around? And I mean, you know what's funny about this election, JD? It is not any different than all the other elections we've had. We're having the same arguments about the same battleground states. The white guy with the highest name ID that was the most promoted in the media won the Republican nomination just like every other single time. It's not any different. And so we've already tried this strategy of the Democrats really suck, and if we elect them, everything ends in the next 4 years. We tried it in the 90s. We tried it with Obama. We're trying it again. You're only going to win as a Republican Party again if you offer the country something to actually vote for. The demographics are just too much against us. The Democrats, JD, they want an election of which side do you suck most, do you hate most? Because they've got more numbers to turn out like that. The argument they don't want to have is a transcendent argument based on the issues.
Well, see, there's still some issues that, regardless of problems with personalities and or proclivities in the past, Mr. Trump is really making a point. For example, on immigration. Let's go back to Meet the Press and hear what he had to say on that.
If a person can't prove that they're from an area, and if a person can't prove what they have to be able to prove, they're not coming into this country. Hillary Clinton wants to take 550% more people coming in from that area than Barack Obama. I think she's crazy.
So, he lays out a clear difference. Now, I would go a bit further, quite frankly. I would put a complete ban on any immigration until we get that burgeoning bureaucracy in gear and actually say we're going to enforce immigration law. But he is drawing a contrast that has persuaded a lot of people. So, keeping that in mind, isn't that a positive reason to cast a ballot in opposition to Hillary Clinton with the Republican standard bearer?
I think you have to ask yourself, do you believe that he is saying what he is saying right there? I mean, do you believe that he believes that? I mean, we have seen him. How many stories, you and I both work in the media, JD, how many stories have we seen? Reince Priebus was just saying last week he's walked back his Muslim ban. I mean, Paul Manafort has reordained Trump's comments on immigration at least 10 times that I can think of off the top of my head, I should say. And I think that this is where the debates will be very constructive, because it will be that unless Gary Johnson can pull high enough to get in there, and I think there's an outside chance he could, this will be Trump's first opportunity to one-on-one show that he can have a substantive issue conversation. And I thought the way that he messaged the immigration issue right there in the clip you played me is a lot better than usually in the starkest, most negative kind of tones that turn people off that he used during the campaign, which our side likes. But we ended this primary with fewer people supporting building a wall than we started it with. So he's got to message those issues better. And I think if he does that in those primaries and shows that he's a lucid, capable alternative, not just that he's a protest candidate or he's not Hillary Clinton, but he could be seen as a viable president in the United States, then I think you'll see more people will come across and vote for him in November. But that's on him to do that.
All right, and it's a work in progress, long time between now and November. Now, on 60 Minutes last night from CBS News, Secretary Clinton was asked about what she cares about most and what she hopes to accomplish. Let's look and listen, then get your reaction.
Well, I care most about getting the economy working for everybody, not just those at the top. And the whole suite of issues that I've talked about through this campaign, that I've worked on, are ones that we're going to tackle, from immigration reform to gun safety.
Okay, so basically what her running mate, Tim Kaine, said on Saturday in Miami, hey, amnesty within the first 100 days, and you know Hillary wants to walk back the Second Amendment with all that is at stake. And you said Trump could appeal to more people. Are you just absolutely stuck in the never Trump category? 20 seconds.
Yeah, I just think he doesn't have the character to be president of the United States. And I just don't think it's worth it for me to use my career to defend many indefensibles.
All right, fair enough. Steve Deace tonight from Iowa. Steve, you always have interesting and thought-provoking perspectives, and we welcome them from you. Thanks very much for your time. And you may have some things you want to say in reaction to what Steve has shared with us. We'll get to that tomorrow night. Till then, stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.